to present the Most Valuable Player Award, sponsored by Edge, to Earvin Magic Johnson. Congratulations.
The last time Detroit Pistons were able to win more than 60 games in a season, Victor Wembanyama was 2 years old and probably close to 6 feet tall. Just for perspective, Ja Morant was 6 and Luka Doncic was 7. Yeah, that's how long ago the Pistons were a force to be reckoned with. Now, the tables have turned, and it will be a miracle if they don't finish this season with more than 60 losses. How does a franchise go from being respected for its winning culture and defensive tenacity to an absolute laughingstock? Today, we'll be discussing their downfall and try to find out what they're doing wrong. Welcome back to Hoop Vision. Let's dive straight into basketball. Back in the day, the bad boy Pistons were terrorizing the league. Just like their current roster, they were making history, but in a good way. If you think about it, today's Pistons are also terrorizing the league by making us watch them play. In the 80s and early 90s, the Detroit Pistons were everything they're not now. Drafting Isaiah Thomas in 1981 was the best thing that ever happened to the franchise. There's an old story saying Dennis Rodman was heavily inclined towards Texas-based teams. The Pistons, were able to get him because of Isaiah's personality. We all know what happened shortly after. The Pistons went on to earn and defend their bad boys nickname alongside winning back-to-back titles in 89 and 90. Thomas was a true point guard with both amazing scoring and passing abilities, but what really set him apart was his mentality. No coach can teach passion, and Isaiah had a full tank of it. Just like any other player, it took him a couple of years to make the Pistons a contending team, but once they were on, the rest of the league knew it. At the time, the East was heavily dominated by Larry Bird's Celtics, so dethroning them was the first step towards winning a championship. The Pistons came very close in the 86 and 87 conference finals, but Larry's clutch steal took Game 7 away from them. The next year, Detroit got their revenge against the Celtics, but went on to lose against Magic Johnson's Lakers in an epic 7-game series. And then, when you think they'd get overwhelmed by disappointment, they went on to win 2 chips against the Lakers and the Blazers, both in a dominating fashion. Maybe that's the main difference between the bad boys and today's Pistons: the approach to facing adversity. Once the losses started piling up, it was more than obvious the team was suffering an internal crisis. The body language of Cunningham and everyone else has shown us how uncomfortable they were on the court. Imagine Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman playing the 16th game after a 15-game losing streak. The sheer tension before would be enough to scare not just the opponents, but their teammates as well. But before everyone attaches them the label of the worst team ever, let's go back and see some of the other worst teams ever in the NBA. It's hard to forget the epic run of Charlotte Bobcats in 2012. The lockdown season prevented them from having a worse record than the actual 7-59. Let's say that was a normal 82-game season. With this win-loss ratio, they would have ended up with an 8-74 record and a place in history that no one would want to take from them. How can we forget all those air balls, missed wide-open layups, and silly turnovers that left us speechless, asking ourselves, how did these guys get into the NBA? To be fair, they were young and inexperienced, but there were moments when they looked like they were playing basketball for the very first time. If we compare them to today's Pistons, the similarities are obvious. No chemistry, no offensive flow, and definitely zero reasons for optimism. However, if you're one of the players from that 2012 Bobcats roster, you must be watching this season hoping Detroit takes no more than 5 to 6 wins and takes over the title of the worst team ever. The Bobcats were awful, but we kind of expected them to be. But one team that really resembled the Pistons were the Philadelphia 76ers back in the 2015-16 season. The process was still in its early stages, as Joel Embiid was sidelined due to injury. That tanking season was one of the reasons why they got Ben Simmons in the first place, but going 10-72 was too much even if done intentionally. The Sixers played awful basketball that year, resulting in one of the worst records the league has ever seen. It should be noted that the Philadelphia 76ers also lost 28 games in a row. However, that was over the course of 2 seasons. The only difference between them and today's Pistons is that the Pistons didn't intend to do this. They've shown effort in many games, and the frustration was more than visible when things started going downhill. Judging by the last season's record, 17-65, it's not like they expected to pursue the playoffs this year, but no one saw this coming. To lose 28 straight games in a single season was not part of the agenda going into this season at all. It is historically bad. The fact they've hired Monty Williams as their coach to what was at that point the biggest coaching deal in the NBA showed they were planning on improving themselves, but nobody knows where things went wrong this badly. If we take a look at how the Pistons have been playing this season, there are so many things just screaming to be pointed out. Their offensive efficiency is non-existent. They're 24th in points per game, 27th in three-point percentage, and 29th in the number of turnovers made. It's like they've given up already and they're just wishing for the season to be over. Just for a second, imagine you're on this Pistons roster, having to go out and perform every night knowing everyone's expecting you to lose. And not just that, but everyone's eager to see how far can your losing streak extend. It cannot be a nice thing to go through, and if you're a member of the Spurs or the Wizards, you must be thankful for Detroit picking up all the media attention. Those two are playing horrible as well, but again, the context is different. What Coach Pop is doing to Wemby is something like Palpatine did to Anakin Skywalker, so when he develops his force and gains a powerful teammate from the next draft, we'll conclude the season was probably a part of the bigger plan. Detroit, on the other hand, has a lot of mess to sort out. If they want to have a different season next year, the roster must not stay the same, but it'll be hard to point out which players deserve the biggest credit for this year's success. Also, when you have a coach that's in year one of his 6-year deal, that's a tough situation to be in. Do you bite your teeth and fire him, or do you ride it out and hope for sunshine next summer? What many people criticize Monty Williams for are his rotations, which was the same mistake he was making in Phoenix. He likes to play schemes with two centers sharing the court, which proves to be lethal in today's NBA where spacing is a huge factor. The biggest question regarding the Pistons isn't about their present, because that ship has sailed, but their future. Their draft pick situation is pretty decent, considering they haven't made big moves over the last couple of seasons. Aside from the draft, the trade window doesn't look too optimistic for them for one simple reason. Who in their right mind would want to play for the Pistons right now? The most recent acquisition of the old man Gallinari and Mike Muscala is just a desperate try to switch things up and force a couple more wins, but judging by their current state, nothing can help this team. Just look at Gallinari's interview and you'll see someone who doesn't want to be there. It's clear the man was sick and tired of having to play with Poole and Kuzma, only to be sent off to an even worse environment. If there's one thing the future holds for the Pistons, it's challenges. They'll have to focus on bringing back that bad boys culture if they want anyone semi-decent signing for them anytime soon. However, they're not the only ones with a really disappointing season. The Charlotte Hornets have been struggling this year, as well as Portland, Spurs, and Golden State Warriors. The Wizards are in Detroit's debt for distracting everyone from their awful play as well. And if you'd like to see more on how they've managed to ruin their season before it already had started, make sure to check out this video. And that's it for today, dear friends. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments below what you think the Pistons record will be at the end of the season. If you can think of a potential solution for them, feel free to mention it below as well. Thank you for watching and growing this channel. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next one. Peace out.